The DIMP Digital Network presents the DDT WrestleCast.
Here from the DIMP Digital Network. Welcome to the DDT WrestleCast. I am here flying solo on this edition, but there's an awful lot to talk about. It's been one of those weeks where I would go to sit down and record this episode, and then I would check the internet quickly, and there'll be a significant piece of news that would drop, and it'll be a developing story. We'll just get a headline to start with, and then by the time it's time to go to bed, because a lot of this stuff breaks overnight for myself being in the UK, a lot of it's American time, I'd wake up and there'd be a brand new story, and I'd go, okay, that evening I'll then plan to do that. Then the next day there'd be something else that would break. It kept going and going on, and it's been a bit of a crazy week in all honesty, and this particular episode has grown arms and legs, and I've completely thrown out what I was originally going to do. And it's just been craziness. It's crazy town. It's always been a bit of a weird and wacky industry. Not so much these days in modern times, but behind the scenes there's still a lot of stuff going on. And with lockdowns being in place, COVID-19, all that stuff, there has been some significant changes in the landscape of professional wrestling. I'm going to start things off on a bit of a somber note. We got news that Howard Finkel had passed away. One of the most recognisable voices in wrestling. I started watching WWF 98, and he was the main kind of ring announcer at that time. But he'd been there since 1975. Vince McMahon's father, Vince McMahon Sr., hired Howard Finkel. It was the first employee of the then WWF, and he eventually became their primary ring announcer for many years, until around sort of 2000. They got Tony Chimmel and Lillian Garcia, but he had a good run, that's for sure. And I've been watching the old wrestling lately. I mean, year 2000 now, but in 99 he was kind of being phased out at that point. Raw and SmackDown by mid 99 was Tony and Lillian who were doing either of those, and he was doing pay-per-view still. But there's an on-screen angle he does where he kind of plays Chris Jericho's skivvy when Jericho first starts with WWF, and yeah, it's just interesting to see him in those appearances, and he went on to do voiceovers, and he's done these occasional angles and whatnot. Apparently, he came up with the name WrestleMania as well. So, what a great name, and that is obviously stood the test of time. But a sad day, because Howard Finkel, as many people who grew up watching wrestling in the Attitude Era, his voice is kind of just burnt into your mind. It really is. You do get those voices that just don't leave. I think my favourite call of his was, I think it was SummerSlam 99. Is that Billy Gunn versus The Rock? That match anyway, and it's a kiss my arse match. And just hearing Howard Finkel announce the match, the following contest is scheduled for one fall, and it's a kiss my ass match. It never fails to put a smile on my face. But rest in peace, Howard. You've done a great service to the wrestling industry, and was a big part of my love for it, and a sad day for all those involved in wrestling. Now, WWE, they've had all sorts of going on this week. They're the ones that basically caused the episode to completely change and grow its arms and legs. So we've had a positive test of COVID-19. So a WWE employee has tested positive for COVID-19. So here's the statement from the WWE. We believe this matter is low risk to WWE talent and staff, as the individual and a roommate became symptomatic in the days following exposure to the two people working in acute healthcare on the evening of March 26th after a WWE TV production on a closed set was already complete. So the symptoms appeared after. The employee had no contact with anyone from WWE since being exposed to those two individuals, is doing well and has made a complete recovery. So good news in the fact that this individual, who shall not be named, has recovered, which is obviously if you get, you end up with COVID-19, that's the end game, really. You don't want to be ending up in hospital and all that stuff. It's a slippery slope. So the good news there is that that particular individual has recovered. Worrying though, I mean, look, that just shows how easily this virus can get in and get out, and WWE have been changing the way, and it's one of the stories I want to go into. They've changed the way they've structured their programming, which I think might not be the best idea, but we'll get onto that. Anyway, the person's not been named. They're saying it's low risk, so we take them for their word for that. The state of Florida made an announcement that WWE, this includes many other sports organisations, basically anything with a national TV audience is classed as essential. Therefore, WWE, AEW if they wanted to, in fact, any promotion with a national TV deal, which I think is only those two to be quite honest, can run there. So in a memo that they released, employees at professional sports and media production with a national audience, including any athletes, entertainers, production team, executive team, media team, and any others necessary to facilitate including services supporting such production, only if the location is closed to general public. And that's what they list as essential. So if you fall into that category where you've got a national TV audience and you're a sports and media production, you can pretty much get a skeleton crew together and do it, providing you do not open it to the general public. So WWE have been doing that. AEW done some taping, and it was a closed set. They just had people relevant to the shows attending those, no fans. So that's opened the door for wrestling to continue during this COVID-19 outbreak. And here's the weird bit, kind of is attached to that particular story, is that WWE have gone back to live programming. Now, WrestleMania, this includes WrestleMania and the lead up to WrestleMania, they basically did a batch taping of SmackDown, Raw, NXT. AEW have done the same. They done a lot of taping in Atlanta, Georgia, I believe, and they've got stuff probably till mid-May, maybe latest this time May, so sort of 17th, 18th. We don't know exactly how much AEW have got, but they've batch taped and they've got stuff to go until that time. WWE are going to go back to a live programming schedule. So this has already happened. So NXT was recorded live, or as close to live as possible, and so was Raw, and SmackDown will be tonight as I record this. And if you're listening to this before SmackDown, so not sure that's the best idea, if I'm honest. The batch recording completely and utterly makes sense. There's a question whether you should be doing it at all, but let's just assume that you accept that wrestling should run, and then you say, how should we do it? Now, to me, the best way to do it is to condense the recording, condense the taping into as few days as possible. So you have people in an area for a smaller amount of time, then they can go away and stay away for an extended period of time. What WWE have, in doing this, in going back to a live broadcasting situation and programming, is that people now have to fly in Monday or Sunday, whatever, go and do the tapings, go back somewhere, come back the next week, and they have to keep doing that each week, which surely increases the risk, and it's an unnecessary risk, in my view. The rumour is that their TV partners, USA Network and Fox only mandate they can tape a certain amount of shows per year. So no one's come out and said that, as far as I know, from either of those networks. But that's what people are rationalising why Vince has decided to do this, because the plan was up until last week to do tapings, and actually he actually recorded or taped part of SmackDown, and then Vince decided that we're going to return to live TV shows from the Performance Centre. So it's going to make quarantining and social distancing measures much, much more difficult. Florida is open for business to record at this time, so there's not a problem there as we speak in terms of them coming back next week and doing all this again. But that could change. That really could change. That could be something that is changed quite quickly. If there's a sudden outbreak or a surge in cases, anything like that could completely throw that whole Florida being open for business, under the bus and gone. We hope it doesn't, because that would mean there's obviously a far wider problem than wrestling being taped in the state of Florida. So for me, there's two things there. There's one that's safety wise, it can't be the best idea, because you've got people travelling in and out. I mean, I saw Jerry Lawler flying in, like 70 years old, I think he is. He's had a heart attack. Why is he getting on a plane to go to Raw? He's not essential to that production. I love Jerry, but no king. There's no need for you to be at Raw every week. I'm sorry. I'm sure JR doesn't want to be missing out on what AEW are doing. I'm 100% convinced of that. But the man is, 68? And AEW have deemed him, probably a higher risk than most of the talent there, and therefore he stays at home. There's no good him getting on a plane to help do the production. And they've managed to find an alternative with him doing some remote commentary, which we saw on Dynamite Wednesday. So there's that point of view, safety-wise, surely not a good idea. And then the second point is, like I said, if the situation changes and Florida has to, up the measures and start shutting down or reducing what they consider essential businesses or services or sporting operations, then WWE will be left with no programming for that particular period of time. They would have to scramble, find probably a new state, somewhere else, then move everyone to that place. And doing it week to week, just kind of, you're playing with a bit of fire, because if the situation changes, you're only ever going to have that week's worth of content that you've recorded, and it's already gone out, so you've got nothing in the bank. And then that whole point about, we can't do so many tape shows a year, we're scared of the money being pulled or funded or whatever, goes out the window, because you're not going to be able to fulfil that commitment anyway. So I don't know. That's madness to me. Like, there's the two reasons is you bulk tape for the safety of the people that have to be involved with it, reduce the amount of travelling they have to do over a period of time, and then also the business side of things, you've then guaranteed, let's just say, 6 weeks worth of content, where the situation might have changed again. Some areas might have relaxed their processes and protocols, and I don't get that at all. It's probably Vince being Vince, or it's probably maybe they're frightened about losing that money. I don't know. Not going to even try and understand that one from my perspective. Not quite wrestling related, but related to WWE. XFL filed for bankruptcy, so that's gone. Vince's little pet project has flushed again, so it's the second coming of the XFL seemingly is dead before it really got off the ground again, and maybe it never would have got off the ground ever again, but that's gone. So that's some of Vince's money that won't be plundered into that. Again, anyone that's on the payroll for the XFL now will lose their job. And speaking of job losses and releases and furloughing and bits like that, WWE announced a hell of a lot of releases to talent, producers, other on-screen workers, commentary people, bits and pieces like that. I've got a list that I've taken from WrestlingInc.com. And this is the story that's kind of been developing over the coming days. Like, there's been names, a first batch of 12 names, and it increased. And then, so this list is not definitive. I expect there could be more announced imminently. So we've got Rusev, Kurt Angle, Zack Ryder, Rowan, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. So the Boneyard match has killed them off for good. Sarah Logan, EC3, Drake Maverick, Kurt Hawkins, Mike and Maria Kanellis, Heath Slater, No Way Jose, Eric Young, Leo Rush, Primo, Epico, Deonna Pizarro, Dan Matha, MJ Jenkins, Alicia Marino, Alexandra Jaskic, and then that's the talent they've announced that's gone. Could be more, but no word on whether that's the end of the matter or not. They've then furlonged a set of producers, so Fit Finlay, Shane Helms, Billy Kidman, Mike Rotunda, IRS, for those that are listening and had listened to our SummerSlam 1992 review the other week. Oh, lovely drop of coffee that is. So he's gone. He's no longer going to be a producer for now. They're furlonged. Pat Buck, Sean Devari, Scott Armstrong, Sarah Stock, Lance Storm. So they've been furlonged. Now, the expectation is that they will probably come back once house shows resume and all the production comes back. But for now, they're furlonged. 3 coaches, which were Serena Deeb, Kendo Kashin, and Chris Guy, Ace Steel. Announcers Aidan English, Jerry Soto, and referee Mike Chioda released. Mike Chioda's been there since 1989. Like after Earl Hebner, he's the second most famous referee in the world. He's a lad. Once Earl went, he became the lead referee. Bloody hell! So he's gone. Madness. Creative: Andrea Listenberger, and then other on-air talent was Jasiah Williams and John Costello. So the Wrestling Observer is saying that the talent, so the wrestlers I mentioned at the very beginning, all have a non-compete until the 15th of July. So usually there's a 90-day non-compete clause in all WWE contracts. For NXT, all the release names aren't known. And unlike the main roster, the belief, this is all from Wrestling Observer, the belief is that there will be more to come. We're told everyone who isn't featured heavily on NXT television is sweating on this. The NXT talent cut will only be on a 30-day non-compete obligation, so they could go and work for someone else within 30 days. That's a huge amount of people that have been shown the door. If we look at this from a business perspective, so obviously Vince we've got there, but we also have this little fictional fella called Alan, and Alan, because you guys on DDT won't know who Alan is. Alan is a fictional busin's advisor / consultant who operates in every company or promotion that we talk about. There's a guy called Alan there who's making the calls that's best for business. So from Alan's perspective, so he's sitting there sweating on all this money that could be potentially going. There's going to be a loss of one of the Saudi Arabia shows that brings in a huge amount of money. No house shows are running. No live shows are running. So that's obviously gates for both of those, and merchandise sales are down. So he wants to make cutbacks and save some money, and that's the reason why this is being done. If you look at it purely from a business perspective, that is the only reason why that's there. It's to try and save money during this difficult time, and it's a pretty cut and dry thing. If you're sat there in the business area of this, you'd go, "Yep, that makes sense. That makes complete sense." But it's not black and white, is it? Because there's a moral quandary here with the WWE releasing, and these are just the named workers. I'm pretty confident there's dozens of others that aren't named workers at WWE who've been either furlonged or released outright, and these people are now out of a job. And I'm not going to even have the arrogance to sit here and say, out of those people, who should go to another promotion, who could go to AEW, for example, because I don't know enough about the depth of the WWE roster to say that. But hypothetically speaking, if any of these guys did want to work for another company, there's two problems, and this is just from a wrestler perspective. One is this non-compete. So, you've already got 90 days where you can't actually go off and do anything contractually. So thumb up arse there for 90 days. And secondly, every wrestling promotion on the planet is hurting at the moment. They're all suffering in some way. So yes, some are more heavily affected than others, but the opportunity for talent to be picked up now by a company is at an all-time low, because no one knows what's going to happen next week, let alone in 90 days, whether these will be useful acquisitions. And if we just look at something like AEW, they've just had a big influx of talent. Lance Archer, Matt Hardy, Brody Lee, 3 reasonably big names, 2 from WWE, and then 1 from New Japan in Lance Archer. So they've already kind of spent some money, acquired some new talent and set plans for them. And there is only so much space for people. Could they pick up another 3 from the release there? Maybe. But then you've got the younger talent they've been looking at bringing through, and it's just not a good time to be a free agent wrestler who had previously worked for the WWE. The indies aren't running, so you can't even go and get booked for that. Oh, lovely drop of brew, that coffee, as I keep saying. So morally, to do this is, I think, wrong, because WWE are hurting, yes, but they are still going to be a profitable company at the end of this year, and they will gross an enormous amount of money at the end of this year as well. So yes, it will save them money, but it's not like they have to do this to survive. And that's the difference between what a lot of companies are doing. They're making the difficult decision. This is not even wrestling, this is everywhere. Can we afford to keep running our current operations? Can we even just afford to keep going? Yes or no? If the answer is no, it's like, okay, can we cut people so that a percentage of people can still earn a living and then we can still go? Yes. Now, WWE do not have to do that. They would not go bankrupt, like the XFL. They would not go out of business. Yes, their investors would be displeased because they won't make as much money as they would have done, had they released all this talent. But come on. Good God. Shitty. Feel sorry for all those guys. Some will fare better than others. Others may never work again. I watched Drake Maverick. He put a video on Twitter hours after the announcement was made official. And that was heartbreaking to watch. He's in tears talking about, the situation. He's gonna, go and watch that. Like, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, these poor wrestlers, don't worry about them. Just watch that. That was horrible to watch. But like I said, there's other people and other businesses that are going through this as well. So, not surprising that this has happened in the wrestling industry. I'm just surprised it's the most cash-rich wrestling promotion that's the first to do it. Like, AEW might end up doing it. They might. We're still early days in this, and this looks like it's going to be a long-term thing. So they might deem they've got to do stuff, but to be the first and be the most cash-rich is, madness in my view. It's not a good look. The optics on that are not good, and we'll see, because MLW might decide they've got to release people, and then do we have the same conversation there? We probably will condemn that, but at the same point, that might be a necessary thing to keep the business, their company, afloat. This is not the case here. They're not going to go under if they kept these, 24 people on. It's just a way of reducing the amount they're going to lose. So from a business perspective, Alan's laughing, but morally, come on. And then again, it's Vince. What do we expect? Wednesday Night Wars. Not something I'm particularly enamoured to cover every single week or even at all occasionally, but whilst we were doing this episode, I thought might as well mention it. The Wednesday Night Wars are only important to me from the UK because I know it potentially is a critical factor in AEW, NXT and other wrestling promotions staying around on television, which means they will then be ported over to the UK so I can watch it. But I can't do anything to influence this. But I was very surprised this week because NXT beat AEW for the second straight week. So NXT averaged 692,000 viewers on Wednesday, which was down 1,000 from last week, but, talking minute ones. Dynamite, 683,000. So that's down 1% from the previous week. So NXT, despite having their big matches last week, really, with Ciampa and, what's his bloody name? Johnny Wrestling, Gargano. It's a huge feud that was supposed to be the blow-off to that feud. So I thought that was going to be their peak, to be honest. And I thought AEW this week had Moxley v Hager in the empty arena, no-holds-barred match. I thought that'd be a big draw. It wasn't. So Dynamite and AEW, viewer-wise, are hurting from all this empty arena business. And, the crowds, they're integral to pro wrestling, really, but you'd say maybe more so with AEW because it's how fucking rabid sometimes. They give matches an extra dimension for sure. And the NXT crowd do as well, especially at takeovers when there's a bigger crowd there. But, it's showing at the moment that the Dynamite audience aren't as loyal as the NXT audience are. So they are not... They're obviously saying we do not like this. And I think they had a peak this year of around 900,000. So, that's when there was the peaking. Now they're down to the sort of high 600,000s. The saving grace for AEW and Dynamite is in the 18 to 49 demo, which is known as the money demo. They scored a 0.25, which was actually ahead of NXT, which was a 0.17. So if you look at the top 50 rankings for the night, Dynamite finished 29th because the demo is what kind of slants those. There's, some people who the fanboys of both are saying, well, total viewership's what counts. The AEW fans this week are saying, no, it's the demos, and if that ever swaps, they'll change their mind. But it's one of those things, people will tell you all day long it's total viewership. Others will say the networks, the guys that pay the money, are interested in the 18 to 49 demo because that's where they get their ad revenue from. So, it's just the main thing of that, really. The pick out point is that I'm surprised that AEW didn't go up from last week. It actually went down. And that's worrying because they had a world title fight on Dynamite. So not ideal. AEW news again. Double or Nothing is still scheduled for May. So they're still going to go ahead with that pay-per-view, but it won't take place at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. So that's probably the least surprising news of the week. I was waiting for them to do that because I was originally planning to fly over to Vegas from the UK to go to that event and visit Vegas for the week as well. Obviously plenty of things to do there. And then when all this shit kicked off, I thought, oh God, what if I can't get out there because of the travel restrictions in the UK, but the event still goes ahead? Can I get a refund? All that. And this simplifies things from a selfish point of view. I was going to go to the Dynamite after, actually, the Fallout episode of Dynamite. That's been cancelled and just refunded. What they're saying with Double or Nothing is that you can request a refund at the point of sale, or you can keep your ticket for next year, and the event will be taking place May the 29th, 2021 at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. So I've got a decision to make there in terms of whether I want a refund or to keep the ticket. In my view, I want to go to Vegas, and if AEW's on, maybe we'll go and see that. So, but that's simplified things slightly for people, and they should be able to get a refund if they want it. If not, they can save it for next year. And hope that in 13 months' time, we are in a much better position with this pandemic that is going on. But that'll be it. I'm going to do very quick thoughts on Dynamite, and it's mainly the Hager and Moxley match. So if you're in the UK and you're listening to this and you've not watched AEW yet, because it's not aired on ITV until Friday night, and this is coming out sort of Friday afternoon, I'm not going to spoil the result of it, but I'm going to give my opinion, so you might want to just skip past this last minute or so. I watch it on Fight TV with an AEW Plus subscription, so I can watch it Thursday mornings when I get up. So that's why I'm ahead of the game there. I'm not illegally streaming it, before you guys ask. I actually put money in their pocket, which has got to be helpful. But anyway, the really quick thoughts. Obviously, skip forward if you don't want to hear my thoughts yet, or you want to come back to it, do whatever. But they hyped up this Hager and Moxley match a lot. And I'll tell you what, the lead up, the video packages they did last week and the weeks leading up to this match were fucking excellent. Some of the best stuff that AEW have done on that front in terms of video packages and hype. And then I hear people like Jim Ross, who does commentary for this. He does remote commentary, and it's nice to have a bit of a change of pace from Tony Schiavone and Chris Jericho, who are doing a great job with like the core matches that are taking place on Dynamite. But it's a nice change of pace just to have JR for this special world title match. But you had him hyping up the match, Moxley hyping up the match, Tony Khan saying he believes the best empty arena match ever put on. And I was thinking, Jesus Christ, this must be something fucking special. I got to be tuned in for this. And it was alright. It wasn't bad. It was a walk and brawl. Had some sort of attempted MMA shoot bits in it from the beginning. There was sort of like 3 distinct stages to the match, but it was okay. It wasn't. I was led to believe it to be the best thing since sliced bread, and it wasn't. So that's my fault for believing what the president of the company says, and those wrestlers involved said before seeing it myself. That was not. I mean, I don't have every empty arena match to hand, but I would be surprised if that's the best ever one. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. It was all right. It's watchable. It's decent. The build-up was better than the match. I'll just put it that way. Anyway, that's it. DDT WrestleCast is closed for another session. If you're listening to us via our podcast feed, DDT WrestleCast, or the DDT WrestleCast, then thank you and well done. You are the first people to be listening to this episode and our future content. If you're watching or listening on YouTube, thank you and well done. But you do get it a little bit later. There's like at least a 48-hour lag on getting a decent video version is produced and sent up. So if you are just sitting there on your phone listening to it on YouTube, and you've got it open and you're not watching the screen, then I advise you go on to Google Store or Apple, whatever you call it, put in podcast, find a podcast app, download it, search for DDT WrestleCast, Deep Digital, you'll see is the author. Subscribe to that, then you'll get the content earlier and you won't lose anything, because we don't put any unique video content here, but I'm aware that YouTube do love a podcast on a video channel, so it will continue to come here, just albeit a little bit later, and just be aware you can get it a little bit quicker if you do that. Anyway, starting to babble, this is what happens when I get left on my own. We will be back in due course. The winner of our poll for one of the pay-per-views we're going to cover was the 1992 Royal Rumble, so I'll get that over to paper so you can watch it, and we'll both watch that and review it. It's a very good event from memory. Watched it a few years ago, so looking forward to that. And I'm trying to organise some future events as well, which I don't think they're going to go to poll, but trying to get one event per decade in. So just keep an eye on that. There might be some old stuff coming your way, then some slightly newer stuff, then some peak Attitude Era stuff. So that's all coming. The other announcement I've got actually is, if you listen to the launch episode, I mentioned that there was a season of me sitting there reviewing WWF events from 1998, and I was going to do it from 98 through to 2001, WrestleMania 17, all that good stuff. I have made the difficult decision to can that, so I'm not going to publish those yet. They may get published in the future, but to be honest, there's no set format for them. I'm really drunk for at least a third of them, which might be funny, but also might be incoherent and offensive. And to be honest, the quality's just not there. I wasn't pleased with the quality of what I listened back to. So they were recorded about 6 months ago as well. So this was before DDT became a thing, its own kind of stream. So I didn't want to also put old stuff on there. I try and, contrary to what you've just listened to, I do try and make these things a decent level of production and entertaining to listen to. This week's a little bit different because it's more of a news related episode, so these will be probably infrequent. We'd like to do the event reviews where possible, but it's not always something we can do. But yeah, just wanted to mention that if you were waiting around for those, don't. But we've got events lined up to review, some classics and some old school favourites, so there you go. But that's going to be it now. I will stop babbling, and all I'm going to say is thanks very much for your time, and ta-da.
This was a DIMP Digital production.